Philosophizing doodle, yeah! Why is the world so broken? Why do we keep repeating the same mistakes? War, inequality, and greed. To answer that, we must go back. Not just to history, but to the very beginning. Because humanity's greatest conflict isn't between ideologies and nations. It is between two forces, mutual respect and individualized respect. In the beginning, there was no morality and no conflict. Just change, energy flowing throughout the universe. Materials collided and combined, and galaxies formed. Not through violence, but what Partaceyist call mutual respect. And physical force that is mutually attentive causality. For example, water came to Earth from the asteroids, and water led to life being formed here on Earth. In essence, the universe did not need our control. Instead, the universe matured through its own harmony throughout time. Then came the first cell, the first life form, and it did something revolutionary. It ate. For the first time in the universe, something said, "This is mine." This act created individualized respect, an idea that surviving is about receiving and not giving. Formulated as something causally present in the minds of all living things as respectful. This one spark started the root of all conflict. The great me over we, ownership over flow, control over harmony. This story shows up in Christianity too. When Eve took the fruit, it wasn't just about disobedience, it was about desire, wanting something for herself. It was the spiritual version of the first cell eating for survival, and the birth of the philosophy of supply and demand, baked by its desire for individualized respect or economic materialism. Ideology that adapts to technological changes. Since as technology advances, the same level of supply can be used less to achieve the same level of demand, which challenges the current arrangement of supply and demand within society at that given time in history. All of life, from the cells to the ducks, to the people, to the trees, they all have been enslaved by economic materialism. A good example is a duck wanting to stand on a stick. This duck wants to stand on a stick because the duck desires to stand on a stick. But this desire came from a fear of missing out, of staying up on the stick. And this is why individualized respect is so dangerous. If we fast forward to the age of humans, you can see the hint of the opposite. Fire, language, and tribes, these are all connections, all cooperation, on the process of us returning to mutual respect. But survival at this time was hard. Resources were scarce, and danger was everywhere. So we decided to obey a system to keep us away from the chaos. This is economic materialism, the living idea, which states that survival depends on controlling supplies to meet personal demand for the individual. Imagine economic materialism, think of a squirrel. It finds an acorn and it eats it. All good. But then another squirrel shows up. And the personal identification of the acorn to the squirrel makes it fight, but not to survive, but to own. The illusion of control over the finite universe. Around 11,000 years ago, humans started to farm. And when it came to the first permanent settlements, like the Gopi Tepe, it was not a home, but a temple. A spiritual place to control belief, but to not survive the winter. This wasn't just the dawn of agriculture, it was the fall of man. A state in which humans tried to control the earth instead of trying to live with the earth. Then came the Great Flood. A flood recorded by countless of cultures during this time, passed down via legend. For Gopi Tepe, this flood was possibly the Black Sea flood 7,500 years ago. An event that drowned whole settlements. Like the biblical flood, it wiped out a world built on pride and control. Seen with the depictions of animals within the Gopi Tepe itself. But instead of learning from this great opportunity, we instead fall back to the same order. We fell back to economic materialism to solve us from the chaos that was these great floods. So the fall of man still lives on today. Bronze tools made farming easier, but warfare deadlier. During this time, empires like Sumer, Egypt, and Babylon emerged. Societies were now ruled by hierarchy, established traditions, and fear. Economic materialism adapted to the agricultural revolution by imposing itself into the social fabric of humanity via its enforcement from hierarchy itself. And economic materialism was baked into our social hierarchies. That is when mutual respect became manipulated to be something you earned by obeying and conquering within the minds of the masses at this time. In essence, the supply and demand mindset ruled everything, leading to an age of war. Meanwhile, in the Americas, empires formed, but with stone tools. Without bronze, economic materialism in the Americas was smaller and weaker in its advancement over the societies of the Americas. Their mutual respect for nature ran deeper than the old world. But this ironically made it harder for Native Americans to break free from fully the grasp of economic materialism, because their traditions became sacred even when their traditions no longer served them in their best interests. Traditions like a duck staying on a stick embed supply and demand into the society, making the society obey supply and demand instead of their causal place in the universe. With iron, empires could theoretically grow indefinitely. Persia created land for service systems, the Bofiet. These empires were at the mercy of economic materialism, especially for the supply of iron. But Athens tried something different. Athens gave people agency, a say in how they lived. It was flawed, exclusive, and short-lived, but it was a glimpse to something more important than Athens itself. A return to mutual respect, Athens took a small step in the right direction. Rome took Athens' idea of democracy and changed it, adding expansion and control. For a while it worked, trade spread, law flourished. But economic materialism does not share power. As wealth grew, so did inequality, showcasing a obeying of supply and demand on the basis of wealth. Civil wars erupted and trusts collapsed in 27 BC. The Roman Republic died, and in its place was a Rome enslaved completely to the demands of economic materialism, the philosophy of supply and demand. And so Rome's domination of the known world will lead to the domination of the Western version of economic materialism across the known world. This story has still not changed. We still live under economic materialism, just with shinier tools and more established institutions. Today, we still fight over supply, and we still fear scarcity. We still mistake ownership for meaning, but we don't have to. Mutual respect is still here as a literal force. Within communities, cooperation, democracy, and throughout the universe itself. Mutual respect exists in every choice to live with the world, not above it. The fall of man wasn't just a one-time event. It is a choice that we make every single day. And that's all of Chapter 7 of the Partaceyist Statement. Thanks for watching, like and subscribe!